Tonight for dinner, I really wanted a McRib, but I don't think it's at McDonald's right now. So I decided to just get some pork from my grocery store and make it myself. It is so easy. You season it a little bit, you shape it into your patties, and you just steam it in the oven for about 30 minutes. It is so quick and so easy, and of course I've made fries to go with it. You just coat it in your favorite barbecue sauce and throw it on a toasted bun, and you have a delicious McRib on your schedule. This is it's about 6 ingredients, I think, less than 10 ingredients for the entire dinner. It is super cheap and super easy to put together. So this is just about the easiest thing in the whole world to make. It is 6 ingredients. I am going to start with just 1.5 pounds of ground pork. And you can do this with less, of course. My grocery store just sells pork in 1.5 pound increments. And then into the ground pork, we're just going to add about 2 teaspoons of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and then about 2 teaspoons of salt. And we're just going to give that a really, really good mix to get everything nicely combined. And if it's not mixing quite as well as you want it to, let your pork warm up a little bit. Don't keep it at fridge temperature. If it's a little bit warmer, it'll mix together a little bit nicer. And then once it's all combined, the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to shape them into our McRib patties. Now, normally I get a kind of a stiffer hoagie roll for this, something that's got a little bit more crunch on the outside, but I wasn't able to get those this time. I will just be using my regular hamburger buns, so I'm going to shape them a little bit differently. And I'm just kind of going to make like a meatball out of it, and then just shape it essentially into a hamburger patty. You want to keep it a little bit thick. The pork will shrink a little bit as it cooks later, but it won't shrink a whole lot if it's not super fatty. And you can kind of shape these however you want. If you're using the hoagie rolls, you can shape it into that kind of long rib shape. But I really am just gonna shape this kind of like a hamburger patty. All right, and I got 5 patties out of this. And then one thing that you can kind of do if you really want to get the whole McRib experience is kind of leave a little indentation, and then you'll kind of raise up the middle and leave one more indentation to give the kind of the riblet shape. And you'll kind of pinch up the sides, and you'll just do that to each of your patties. If you're using the long patties, each of those is going to be probably about 6 ounces. You can use chopsticks to help make your indentations if you want, but I don't know how important those really are. And then once all your patties are done, this is actually just going to go into the freezer for a couple of hours. We want these to freeze solid, and then we will cook them once they are fully frozen. Our patties are frozen. My oven is preheating to 400 degrees right now. We're going to go ahead and get our sheet pan prepared. So all I have here is I've just got a sheet pan big enough to hold all of them, and I'm putting a wire rack on it. And I'm actually just going to pour a little bit of water into the bottom of this pan. We don't want the water to come above the wire rack, of course, but we do want to coat the entire pan with at least probably 1/4 inch of liquid. And then we are just going to lay our patties right on top of it. And then we want to cover this really, really tightly with foil. Our goal here is to steam these patties, and we don't want to let any of the steam escape too early. All right, my pan is ready. My oven just finished preheating. I am gonna put this in the oven and I'm gonna come back and check on it probably in about 20 minutes. If you have an electric oven, yours is probably gonna cook a little bit faster than mine, so I would recommend you check it at about 15. I think these are actually gonna take a little closer to 25 to 30 minutes to cook. I just wanna check on them in 20 minutes and see how they're doing. Our patties are done. They've been resting for just about 5 or 10 minutes. They took about 35 minutes in the oven, maybe almost 40. I'm just gonna go ahead and set them aside. I'm gonna keep them on the wire rack. And then I just wanna dump all of this liquid out. We don't need any of this water for the rest of the cooking process. All right, for the barbecue sauce, I really like to use Sweet Baby Ray's. I think this tastes the most like the McDonald's barbecue sauce. And all I'm gonna do is just kind of brush it on. I poured a little bit on top and I'm just gonna spread it around and make sure both sides are really nicely coated. And I like a pretty thick coating. It's also important to make sure you get all of the edges. This is where the rest of our flavor is gonna come from, is the sauce. And then the nice thing about making it at home is if you have somebody who just doesn't like that barbecue sauce, you can put whatever kind of barbecue sauce you want on it. So I'll be doing a couple with this Stubbs Sweet Heat barbecue sauce. And this one's a little bit thinner, so I know I won't be able to get as thick of a coating on the bottom and sides. So I might put a little extra on the top just to kind of make up for that. But he usually adds a little bit of extra barbecue sauce on his sandwich, so it's kind of okay either way. All right, these are all sauced up. Now I'm gonna throw these back in the oven uncovered for probably about 5 to 10 minutes. I just want the barbecue sauce to really thicken up and start to caramelize. It's gonna get really sticky on the outside of these patties. And then while those are in the oven, I'm just gonna kind of start finishing up my fries. I will have a link to that posted somewhere on the screen. So if you guys wanna watch how I make my fries, that is already uploaded. These were in the oven for about 8 more minutes, and I can see my barbecue sauce has really thickened up and it's really just clung to these patties. My buns are gonna be out of the toaster in just about a minute, and then we are gonna assemble our sandwiches. All right, my buns are toasted. They got a little over toasted, but that is fine. I think they will be all right. I'm just gonna go ahead and put these patties on. And I know the original McRib comes with pickles and onions on it, but I don't like pickles and onions with barbecue sauce, so I wasn't gonna put any on here. But if you like those, then definitely add them onto your sandwich. And that is basically it. This is one of the easiest homemade fast food things that I think you can make. It takes a little while because you have to freeze the patties, but it's so easy. I just saw somebody online say that if you wrap it up in parchment paper for 5 minutes, you'll get kind of like an authentic McDonald's experience. It'll steam a little bit in the parchment paper. So I'm gonna try that because I would like to know how that comes out. I'm gonna let that sit for a few minutes and we are gonna give this sandwich a try. This smells really good and I really like barbecue sauce, so this is probably gonna be a great sandwich either way. Cheers. I almost forgot that we have to try the steamed one. I can already feel the bun has softened up a little bit. I think the barbecue sauce has kind of started to seep into the bun. We're gonna see how this one is too. Cheers. I don't think it made enough of a difference. If I let it steam for longer or if my bun wasn't so over toasted, it may have made a little bit more of a difference. But either way, I think this tastes fantastic and I think you should definitely make this for dinner. That is basically the McRib. That is basically just like the McRib. The bun's certainly a little bit different. I'm using a brioche bun, so I'm getting a little bit of extra sweetness. But if you get something that is I think a hot dog bun would probably work really, really well here. Or if you can find a brioche bun that's not one of the extra soft brioche buns. I'm sorry, a hoagie roll, not a brioche bun. If you can get a hoagie roll that's not one of the extra soft hoagie rolls, I think that would work even better. I think that would be fantastic. But this is great. I could eat this all the time. I love the McRib, and if you're making it at home, you don't ever have to wait for McDonald's.